Since it's Mother's Day this month and I'm pregnant and about to have baby number 4, I wanted to do a little mini series on some tips for first-time moms. I've got this video on breastfeeding tips, another one on pregnancy, and then just a first-time mom tips in general. And all of those other ones, the 2 other ones, will be linked in the description box below. And please forgive me, it is allergy season and it's hitting me hard during this pregnancy. So every baby is different, every mom is different, every family is different. So these are just tips that I have found really helpful along the way in my motherhood journey, and you can take them and try to use them and see if they work good for you. But like I said, everybody is different. Take that into consideration as you're becoming a first-time mom or a first-time parent. These are the tips that I have thought of over the past few weeks. I am sure there are more. If you are a mom and you have some tips that you would like to share in the comments below, I would love to see those, and then others can go and read them as well, and we can all learn from each other. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible because there is a lot to get through and I don't want it to be long and drawn out. But first I wanted to talk just a tiny bit about why I love breastfeeding. 1, it's free. I mean, who doesn't love free? 2, it saves time, and although it will not feel like it in the beginning and at certain stages in baby's life where they are nursing a lot, it is, I think, in the long run, a huge time saver. You're not having to wash bottles all of the time, fix formula, do all of that kind of stuff. So I think it is a time saver in the long run. Like I said, there are stages where you're going to spend more time nursing your baby, but that's just because, they need extra comfort or an extra food because they're going through a growth spurt or something like that. Breast milk is made by your body for your baby, and other than a few moms that I have known that have had to alter their diet just a little bit because of maybe allergies that the baby has had that gets passed through their milk, the milk that you produce for your baby is jam-packed with everything that they need. It's easy to digest and it's just ready to go all the time. And it can also pass on your immunities, and when you or baby is sick, it can add in extra things. Your body starts producing these extra things to help your baby, and it passes it through your milk. I have known people who have had to go through several different types of formulas to find the best one for baby, for digestion, and all of these different things. And like I said, other than having to eliminate some things from your diet for breast milk, everyone else that I have had personal experience with, their breast milk is just good to go and they haven't had any problems with feeding it to their babies. And for you, after you have your baby, your uterus will be contracting. It'll do this whether you breastfeed or not, to get back to the size that it was before. But when you're breastfeeding, it will specifically do it as you're nursing. And because you're doing it like every 2 hours it's doing it a lot more than if you weren't breastfeeding. And so it kind of gets your uterus back faster. Also, I personally love the bond that I create with my children while I am breastfeeding them. Obviously, if you are not able to breastfeed or do not breastfeed, There are so many other ways, and I bond in those ways as well with my children. There's so many other ways to bond with your babies. It is not the only way. Just being that person that feeds them the majority of the time, whether with a bottle or nursing, that time and that connection of, the baby being fed by you also creates a bond. But I do love the bond that I have made with my kids through breastfeeding. All right, now into the tips. First thing is to educate yourself. I think that this is the biggest thing that I did for myself before I had my first child. I took a breastfeeding class. I did a lot of reading and research and really looked at what it was going to take for me to be successful in breastfeeding and what the trials were going to be, what the things that I might run into, what to do if I did run into those things, and just kind of trying to prepare myself emotionally for this as well, because I did, through my research, understand that it wasn't going to be easy. I think it is so worth it to push through the hard parts, especially the first few weeks are definitely hard days, the first couple of days, but I think it is so worth it. So educating yourself, tip number 1. Water is my tip number 2. So much water. They tell you to drink a ton of water during pregnancy. Continue that after having baby. Drink a ton of water. You have got to stay hydrated in order to one, fuel yourself, but also to help create the breast milk. I think that dehydration, or just not even dehydration, just not getting enough water is one thing that can make a milk supply less. So water. And this one is just my opinion on this one. Red raspberry leaf tea. So before my first, got a tip from a mom that said to start drinking this a few weeks before my due date, to kind of help things stretch down there and prevent tearing. It did not prevent tearing for me, but I have continued doing that for all of my other pregnancies, because maybe it would have been worse if I wasn't drinking it. But I also kind of feel like with me drinking that in the last few weeks, that it did kind of help with my milk supply as well. So I don't know, that one's just kind of like my feeling. It's not really, there's no science behind that one, I don't think. Keep taking your prenatal vitamins after you have your baby. And now this is one, consult with your doctor on how long you should do it. I personally do it the entire time that I am breastfeeding, which for me ends up being about the 20-month mark for my children. But consult your doctor, but your body does need all of those good nutrients. So then breastfeed within the first hour after giving birth, if you're able. Obviously, if there is something that they need to whisk baby away, then that's going to not be possible. But if you're able to, tell the nurses, say, I want to breastfeed as soon as possible. Most of the time they go ahead and do that. But there is this golden hour, the first hour after giving birth, and it's like the baby is ready and wanting to nurse, and it will help them. I know that I've nursed before and it's helped get some liquid out. It's the great thing about the first hour, and your colostrum comes in, which is really good for baby. It has tons of good stuff for them. Lots of skin to skin. I already mentioned this, but breastfeeding is not easy. So I think along with educating yourself, having a very determined mindset and then also a good support system, at least one person that's very supportive of you breastfeeding, to just give you encouragement in those hard times. If it hurts, ask for help. Actually, even if it doesn't hurt in the hospital, just ask for a lactation consultant to come in, check the latch, make sure everything looks to be going well. But for sure, a sign that the baby is not latching well is that it is very, very painful, to the point where after a couple of feeds, like, you might start cracking and bleeding as well. So, there are tongue ties, lip ties. I had a baby that didn't have either of those, but did something super weird with her tongue. And I had to do like some, press her tongue down and do all of this kind of stuff to try to get her to latch correctly. So lactation consultants can help with that. And please, please, please get help when you need it. A nipple shield is the last resort. For my first, I literally, did I even nurse him once? Maybe I nursed him once, or I didn't even nurse him the first time. And the nurse at the hospital said, you're too flat, your baby's not going to latch on, so you need to use this nipple shield. And then I was stuck with this nipple shield for a couple of weeks, and it is a pain to wean them off of that. I am very grateful that I was able to nurse him at least with a nipple shield and eventually get him off of that, but I really, really wish I would have been able to give it a good go to see if I had kind of done it without the nipple shield to begin with. As first-time moms, a baby's never nursed on you before, so just please try it out and give it a good try before you use a nipple shield. Also, unless there is like some super medical reason, like you need a pump because you're away from your baby or whatever, I don't think that you need to pump after breastfeeding every single time. Your milk supply will come in, and when it comes in, it really just needs baby and what is best for baby in their schedule to regulate your milk supply and all of that. So you don't need that extra pumping, like I said, unless there are other certain situations. But in normal situations, you don't need it. So I recommend trying different positions until you find the best one for you, or the best couple, because you can then rotate. I definitely like to side lay to nurse my babies. I have a boppy pillow, but this boppy pillow I prop up with a pillow underneath so that baby is just nice and close. You can just hold baby cradle. I find that is kind of hard to master at the very beginning. So using lots of pillows and different things to bring baby to your breast is the easiest and best way to do that. There's also the football hold. There's like laying back and letting the baby kind of like find it. There are several different ways that you can ask the lactation consultant about, or look up online to try some different ways. And then along with that, the latch. So along with educating yourself, you'll probably watch videos or see how a baby is supposed to latch, but they're supposed to get a good big mouthful. So my favorite thing to do is when baby is right here, I'll hold, kind of like cradle the back of their neck and then hold in the other hand and then kind of like squish, and like a hamburger, they're gonna say like a hamburger, and kind of like shove it in my baby's mouth as they're opening up. Then I kind of like zounk, get them on there, so that they have a good wide mouthful, and that is probably going to give you a good latch. I personally nurse about every 2 hours during the daytime. Even if they're sleeping, I do wake them up and I try to get them awake, and I try to get them eating and get a good feed in. When they're newborns, they're very sleepy. And then before they go back to sleep, so that they can try to have a good amount of wake time and eating time during the day. So fingers crossed they'll be able to last a little bit longer during a stretch at nighttime. At nighttime, once I do kind of like that last dream feed kind of thing, then I let them sleep, and when they wake up is when I will nurse them. I do pretty much nurse on demand, so that being said, if it's during the daytime and they're giving all the signs and cues of being hungry sooner than 2 hours, pop that baby on and nurse them. Like I said, there are going to be times where you're nursing them more often, and it is a bit exhausting, but that's just kind of my style and my take on it. Along with that, a lot of babies will cluster feed closer to nighttime, which means that they will feed closer. I've had babies that will eat every hour for the few hours before they kind of like go to sleep for the night. And again, that's just kind of like that science of them just trying to get a lot of food in and probably comfort as well before it is time to go to bed. I usually wait till 4 weeks to introduce a bottle, make sure they are good and used to breastfeeding before introducing it. For my first 3, I did go back to work between 6 and 8 weeks, so I did have to start introducing a bottle so they would get used to that by the time I went back to work. But that's usually about the time that I start pumping as well, just so that my milk is really good and in and regulated, and then I start to pump. With leaking, I usually get like 1 box of disposable nursing pads to use up when my milk supply is regulating and you're leaking a lot. So then you can just throw those out. And then I do like to use the reusable cloth ones for the rest of my breastfeeding journey. And they're super, super easy just to throw in the wash and the dryer. They're nice. I use coconut oil as kind of like a natural nipple cream. And moving on to the next one, if you have a clogged milk duct, it will hurt. There will be a tender spot, and a lot of times it will be red. When you first feel this coming on, it's good to start doing, like you can do warm compresses. I like to get in a really warm shower and kind of massage it. That helps kind of like loosen it up. The thing that helps a lot is if you, so let's say it's like right here. Feed the baby as much as possible and have their chin point to the spot that is clogged, because it's something about the way they drink. It pulls a lot harder, more suction or something, and will help get it unclogged. They can get infected, which will then turn into mastitis, and you'll start having like flu-like symptoms and those kind of things. So you definitely have to go see a doctor. But if you can feel it coming on and get it unclogged first, that's really, really good. Engorgement can happen when you just have too much milk in there, and sometimes they'll just get really, really hard, and it will actually be hard for baby to nurse at this point. So some things to try, get in a hot shower, same thing, and kind of trying to hand express some of that milk out. I have a Haka, put a picture here, a Haka. It's just kind of like a hand pump that will kind of get some of it out to get it a little bit softer and looser before you put baby on, and then have them get a good amount of milk out as well. It's just one of those things that you might have to deal with breastfeeding. So I do recommend a nursing bra. I have the ones that I wear out are from the website Bravado. I will put it in the description below. But I have gotten some from Amazon, like a 2-pack that were really good. I use the clip downs when I go out, just because I find that they're more supportive than the pull down ones. The pull down ones are really, really nice for at home. They're softer, and they're a little bit easier just to chink. But again, I like support when I go out and about in public. So I'll put some links down below. You don't have to have nursing clothes. But if you want to get some, I do really like them for going out. I like Pink Blush Maternity. They have some nursing shirts, and then also Latched Mama. Those are my 2 favorite. But I have other brands as well, I think. Does Target have any nursing stuff? I know Walmart does. I have Walmart PJs, and those are really nice. So you can get nursing shirts and dresses, or you can just do the 2-shirt type of method. So you can either just get a cami or tank top that clips down the same as your bra, or just any stretchable one. Wear that underneath your shirt and then just wear a shirt over top of it, so that way you can you lift up your top shirt and you lift down your bottom shirt, and then you're just boonk, ready to put baby on, and you're not exposing everything else. And you don't, you might have all that stuff in your closet if you're just using a stretchy one. This is just a heads up, your milk will let down, so it will, how do I describe let down? It's coming in, I don't know, like, there's kind of like this little burning sensation. I don't think it's painful. But then you can kind of basically feel them filling up. Maybe you might start leaking a little bit, but when your baby cries, and it's been a bit since you nursed them, that is going to happen. So that's why I like to wear nursing pads. Eat a lot of healthy food and have healthy snacks and water readily available to you. So like have some snack baskets around the house. When you start to work out, make sure you drink extra water, because your body will be using that extra water for working out, and it still needs a lot to be able to produce milk. So make sure you're drinking extra. Know that every baby is different. I've said this before, but every baby is different. My first nursed for a solid 30 minutes every single time. 15 minutes on one side, burp, 15 minutes on the other side. My other 2 nursed for 10 to 15 minutes total, only on one side every single feeding. And they were gaining weight perfectly fine, and that is how they nursed. So as long as your doctor is good with the weight gain and the health of your baby, don't worry about the time that they are eating. Oh, but along the lines of switching sides and stuff. So for my first, since he nursed on one side and then finished on the other side, then you have to make sure the baby starts on the side that they finished and then goes over to the other side. 2 easy ways that I do that is I will put my thing, like just switch it and say, oh, this is the one that he needs to start on this side, or he needs to start on this side. Or I'll just get like a bobby pin and I'll clip it onto my bra on the side that they need to nurse on next. Because sometimes you can tell, you're like, oh, this side is fuller, I know you need to start on this side, but sometimes you can't. So I just always like that easy reminder. And then, of course, if your baby only nurses on one side every feeding, then they've got to start on the other side for the next feeding, just to keep everything even. There is always the option to pump if your baby is not latching well, and I commend all the women that do that, because that is a lot of work. There is a lot of time going into pumping and then feeding your baby after. You have to wash all the pump parts and the bottles. But I do feel that breast milk has everything that the baby needs. So if that is the way that you are choosing to breastfeed or have to breastfeed, that is so wonderful. But it is more work. I pumped during work for over a year for my first 3, and it was well worth it. Yes, it was tiring coming home after work to wash all the pump parts and the bottles and all of that stuff, but I think it was well worth it. In the US, a lot of insurance companies will provide a breast pump for free, so call your insurance company and see if you are eligible for that and how you get one. Know that you will not pump as much breast milk as your baby would eat in a similar session. Your baby is just able to suck out more. They're more efficient at getting the milk out of you than a breast pump is. So don't be discouraged if you're only able to pump a little bit and be worried that your baby's not getting enough. Your baby, it actually gets more from you than from the pump. I personally love to wear a robe a lot of the times at home because it's just super easy to pull down and then just go nursing. So that's just kind of my personal preference. So remember, be determined, have a good support system, at least one person, multiple people who are just there for encouragement. But in the end, if it doesn't work out and you are not able to breastfeed, do not feel bad. You are still an amazing mom. I hope that you found these tips helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video.